In the mist-shrouded mountains of feudal Japan, two legendary warrior classes emerged from the chaos of endless war. One fought with honor beneath the blazing sun, the other struck from shadows under moonlight. For centuries, samurai and ninja have captured our imagination, but the truth behind these iconic fighters is far more complex and brutal than modern pop culture suggests. The real story isn't about heroes and villains, but a deadly chess match between two radically different approaches to survival and power in Japan's most violent era. The samurai emerged first, around the 10th century, as mounted archers serving Japan's nobility. These weren't the refined warriors of later eras, but practical fighters who shouted their lineage before charging into battle. Their name literally meant "those who serve," highlighting their original role as military retainers to aristocratic masters. As Japan's power structure evolved, so did the samurai, eventually becoming the dominant military and political class. By the 15th century, they controlled virtually every aspect of Japanese society, creating a rigid caste system with themselves firmly at the top. The ninja's origins are far murkier, deliberately obscured by secrecy and misinformation. What we do know is that they emerged from the Iga and Koga regions, mountainous areas that maintained independence from samurai control far longer than most territories. Here, practical survival techniques evolved into specialized skills. The word ninja came much later. Originally, they were called shinobi, meaning those who endure. They weren't a separate class, but rather practitioners of unconventional warfare drawn from various social backgrounds, including lower-ranked samurai, farmers, and even outcast groups. Their techniques weren't mystical, but highly practical responses to overwhelming samurai military power. The contrast between samurai and ninja weaponry reveals their fundamentally different approaches to combat. The samurai's primary weapon was the katana, a curved sword that became an extension of his soul and status symbol. Crafted through a complex process involving folding steel thousands of times, these blades could cost the equivalent of a luxury car today. Samurai also mastered the bow, spear, and eventually firearms. Their weapons were openly displayed, designed to intimidate as much as to kill. The quality of a samurai's weapons directly reflected his wealth and standing. Ninja, conversely, favored tools of deception and utility. Their signature weapon was the straight-bladed ninjato, shorter than a katana and easier to conceal or use in confined spaces. More important than any blade were specialized tools like the shuko, hand claws, metsubushi, blinding powder, and kunai, multi-purpose spike. Poisons featured prominently, as did various projectile weapons. Unlike samurai who proudly displayed their armaments, ninja concealed theirs, viewing weapons as disposable tools rather than extensions of identity. This practical approach extended to improvisation. A ninja was trained to weaponize common farming implements when necessary. The training methods of these warrior classes couldn't have been more different. Samurai education began at childhood, emphasizing martial skills alongside literature, philosophy, and arts like calligraphy and poetry. Young boys practiced with wooden swords, rode horses, and learned to draw the bow before receiving their first real blade around age 15. Physical conditioning was rigorous, but always tied to character development. The goal was to forge not just a fighter, but a leader embodying the ideals of Bushido, the warrior's code. A samurai's training was meant to be visible, demonstrating his worth through public displays of skill. Ninja training prioritized stealth, endurance, and practical survival. Children in shinobi families learned to move silently, hide effectively, and observe their surroundings with extraordinary detail. Physical conditioning focused on flexibility, balance, and breath control rather than brute strength. Where samurai trained to fight honorably, ninja trained to avoid fighting whenever possible. They studied psychology and human behavior to manipulate enemies rather than confront them directly. Their training included disguise, voice mimicry, and even acting techniques to blend into various social contexts. A successful ninja mission was one where no one ever knew they were there. The moral codes governing these warriors reflected their contrasting purposes. Samurai lived by Bushido, a complex ethical system emphasizing loyalty, honor, courage, and self-discipline. A samurai was expected to serve his lord without question, maintain his honor at all costs, and embrace death rather than dishonor. This code wasn't merely philosophical, but enforced through ritual suicide, seppuku, for those who failed to uphold it. Public reputation was everything. A samurai would rather die than be shamed. This rigid moral framework created exceptional battlefield courage, but also tragic internal conflicts when personal feelings contradicted duty. Ninja operated under a radically different ethical system. Their primary virtues were effectiveness and survival. While they valued loyalty to their clan and employers, they recognized that rigid moral codes created exploitable weaknesses. The ninja philosophy embraced adaptability, viewing situations in terms of practical outcomes rather than abstract principles. This doesn't mean they lacked ethics. Many ninja clans had strict internal codes, but their morality was pragmatic rather than idealistic. Survival and mission completion outweighed personal honor. This flexibility allowed them to operate in morally ambiguous territory where samurai couldn't go without compromising their identity. The battlefield tactics of these warriors reflected their philosophical differences. Samurai warfare was ritualized and direct. Battles typically began with mounted archers, followed by individual combat where warriors announced their names and lineage before engaging. As warfare evolved, this individualistic approach gave way to more organized tactics, but the emphasis on direct confrontation remained. Samurai valued visible courage and despised deception. Even when commanding armies, they led from the front, making themselves visible targets. Their armor was designed to be impressive and intimidating, often featuring family crests and elaborate helmets that ensured they would be recognized. Ninja approached combat as something to be avoided when possible. They specialized in intelligence gathering, sabotage, assassination, and psychological warfare. When forced to fight, they preferred ambush tactics, using terrain and weather to their advantage. Unlike samurai who announced their presence, ninja struck without warning, often at night or during storms when visibility was poor. They exploited fear and superstition, sometimes spreading rumors of supernatural abilities to demoralize enemies. Their clothing wasn't the black pajamas of modern imagination, but practical garments that helped them blend into their surroundings. Farmers' clothes in rural areas, servants' attire in castles. Despite popular misconceptions, samurai and ninja weren't always enemies. Many daimyo, feudal lords, employed both. Samurai for conventional warfare and political legitimacy, ninja for covert operations and intelligence. Some individuals even functioned in both capacities, serving publicly as samurai while conducting secret missions. The distinction wasn't always about different people, but different methods. Lower-ranking samurai sometimes performed ninja-like duties while maintaining their samurai status. The boundaries between these warrior types were more fluid than modern categorizations suggest. The legendary hatred between samurai and ninja stemmed from their incompatible worldviews. Samurai despised ninja methods as dishonorable and cowardly, while ninja viewed samurai honor as foolish rigidity that created vulnerability. When samurai lords like Oda Nobunaga sought to unify Japan in the 16th century, the independent ninja clans of Iga and Koga represented a threat to centralized control. Nobunaga's brutal campaign against these regions in 1581 resulted in widespread massacre, forcing surviving ninja to either integrate into the new order or operate even more secretly. This historical conflict cemented the narrative of samurai ninja enmity. The psychological warfare between these warrior types was fascinating. Samurai relied on intimidation. Their elaborate armor, family crests, and battlefield rituals were designed to project power and induce fear. They wanted enemies to know exactly who they faced and to be terrified by their reputation. Their psychology was built around direct confrontation and the belief that superior skill and courage would prevail. This approach worked brilliantly against conventional forces, but created blind spots against unconventional threats. Ninja psychological tactics were the opposite. They weaponized uncertainty and paranoia. Their greatest asset was the fear they generated not through direct threat, but through invisible presence. A daimyo who received intelligence that ninja had been hired against him might suffer sleepless nights, trust no one, and make irrational decisions, all without a single ninja physically approaching him. When they did strike, they exploited superstition by attacking during thunderstorms or spreading rumors of supernatural abilities. The mere possibility of ninja presence was often more damaging than their actual operations. The decline of both warrior classes came with Japan's unification and subsequent peace. The Tokugawa shogunate, established in 1603, brought an end to the constant warfare that had defined Japan for centuries. Samurai gradually transformed from battlefield warriors to bureaucrats and administrators, though they maintained their social status and privilege. Their martial skills became increasingly ceremonial, practiced as art forms rather than practical combat techniques. Many struggled with this transition, leading to economic hardship and identity crises within the samurai class. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 officially abolished the samurai class and modernized Japan along Western lines. Samurai lost their special privileges, including the exclusive right to carry swords. Some adapted to the new order, becoming military officers or businessmen, while others resisted violently in rebellions like the Satsuma Revolt. The ninja, already operating in the shadows for generations, simply disappeared further into the fabric of Japanese society. Their techniques preserved in certain martial arts schools, but their distinct identity effectively erased. The modern image of both samurai and ninja bears little resemblance to historical reality. Samurai have been romanticized as perfect warrior poets, their darker aspects, including their role in maintaining a rigid class system and their often brutal treatment of peasants, conveniently forgotten. Ninja have been even more thoroughly mythologized, transformed into superhuman shadow warriors with magical powers rather than the practical intelligence operatives they actually were. Both distortions serve various cultural and commercial purposes, but obscure the complex historical relationship between these warrior classes. What's often overlooked is how both samurai and ninja represented innovative responses to the same brutal environment. The samurai developed a code that made the horror of constant warfare psychologically manageable, creating meaning through ritual and honor in a world of death and chaos. Ninja acknowledged the same chaotic reality, but adapted through pragmatism and flexibility rather than rigid codes. Both approaches were sophisticated survival strategies in Japan's warring states period, neither inherently superior, just differently optimized for different objectives and social positions. The legacy of samurai and ninja extends far beyond Japan. Samurai influences are evident in business ethics, martial arts philosophy, and even modern military codes of conduct. Their aesthetic sensibilities and philosophical approach to confronting death continue to inspire artists and thinkers worldwide. Ninja methodologies have influenced modern special forces, intelligence agencies, and unconventional warfare doctrine. Their emphasis on adaptation, deception, and psychological manipulation remains relevant in today's complex conflict environments. Though both warrior classes have been gone for centuries, their contrasting approaches to power and survival continue to shape how we think about conflict and strategy.